If you look around today, we are constantly arguing about what is true, what is moral, and how society should be governed. We act like we're the first ones trying to figure all of this out from scratch. But every debate we have right now is actually the echo of a massive, continuous chain reaction of ideas that started 2,500 years ago. The spark for this reaction was an Athenian stonemason named Socrates. He never wrote a book. Instead, he simply walked into public spaces and asked relentless questions that systematically exposed the ignorance and moral complacency of the powerful. This method of exposing contradictions had lethal consequences. In 399 BCE, the state put him on trial for corrupting the youth. Refusing to abandon his principles to save his own life, he accepted a death sentence. By drinking that poison and famously declaring that the unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates set off a relentless centuries-long rebellion of human thought. Socrates' student, Plato, disgusted by Athens' political turmoil, claimed true reality does not exist here. The material world is just a shadow of a higher, perfect reality of forms. But Aristotle rejected abstract forms, dragging philosophy back to the physical earth. He spent his life conducting biological research and demanding strict empirical observation. By insisting we categorize and measure the natural world right in front of us, Aristotle established the systematic observation that defines modern science. Meanwhile, in ancient China, a philosopher named Confucius was ignoring abstract cosmology entirely. Raised in poverty after his father died, Confucius saw a fragmented state and focused his entire system on the practicalities of human connection. He emphasized harmonious social relationships, filial duty, and the cultivation of personal virtue to build a benevolent society. By the end of antiquity, these thinkers had established the three main directions of philosophical inquiry: looking up to an ideal heaven, looking down at the physical earth, or looking directly at each other. Centuries later, the sprawling debates of classical Greece collided with the rising dominance of Christianity in the West. In the 4th century, early Christian bishop Augustine of Hippo took Plato's ideas of a higher, perfect reality and fused them with Christian doctrine. He argued that humans are inherently flawed by original sin, making divine grace the absolute necessity for salvation. By the 1200s, a Dominican monk named Thomas Aquinas took on an even heavier task, reconciling Aristotle's strict earthbound logic with Catholic theology. In massive texts like the Summa Theologica, Aquinas laid out logical arguments for God's existence. He maintained that human reason and divine faith are perfectly harmonious tools, both working together to uncover ultimate truth. During this medieval era, the intellectual chain reaction stabilized. The chaotic questions of antiquity were locked down, anchoring absolute truth and human morality firmly to the divine. That rigid consensus cracked in the 17th century. A French mathematician named René Descartes decided to systematically doubt absolutely everything he had been taught, right down to the existence of the physical world. He stripped away every assumption until he hit one absolute certainty: his own self-awareness. He realized that the very act of doubting required a thinking mind, leading to his famous conclusion, "I think, therefore I am." Empiricists immediately pushed back. John Locke and David Hume argued that the mind does not start with innate ideas at all. They claimed we are born entirely as blank slates, with all knowledge derived strictly from sensory experience. Look closely at the text of this document. Locke's concepts of natural rights, life, liberty, and property, provided the direct legal and moral justification needed to overthrow absolute monarchies. As rationalists and empiricists fired shots across Europe, German professor Immanuel Kant stepped into the crossfire to broker a compromise. Kant determined that while knowledge begins with sensory experience, the mind is not just a passive receiver. It contains innate structures that actively organize and shape reality as we perceive it. By synthesizing these arguments, the Enlightenment successfully transferred the ultimate authority of truth out of the heavens and directly into the human mind. Once the individual mind was established as the ultimate authority, philosophy scaled up to attack entire systems of power. Jean-Jacques Rousseau kicked this off by asserting that humans are naturally good, and it is civilization itself that corrupts us. Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel took the opposite approach. He argued that human history is a highly rational, unfolding process driven by an interconnected world spirit seeking self-realization. Then came Karl Marx. Influenced by Hegel's theories, Marx violently flipped the entire system upside down. He argued that a mystical spirit does not drive history at all. Brutal, material, economic class struggle does. Marx claimed the working class was destined to overthrow the ruling class, completely dismantling capitalist exploitation to build a stateless society. While Marx attacked economics, Friedrich Nietzsche brought a sledgehammer to all remaining belief systems. He declared that God is dead, framing traditional religion and conventional morality as nothing but constraints on human potential. Nietzsche believed that the driving force in individuals and societies is not morality or reason, but a primal will to power. Finally, Ludwig Wittgenstein arrived to deconstruct the very tool these thinkers were using, language itself. In his later work, he argued that the meaning of words is not fixed. Language is simply a series of fluid, contextual social games. By the middle of the 20th century, philosophy had systematically deconstructed everything in its path: economics, religion, morality, and even the words used to debate them. Looking back at this 2,500-year timeline, the clearest takeaway is that philosophy never delivered one single permanent truth. Instead, these thinkers provided the conceptual methods we use to navigate reality today. We measure the physical world with Aristotle's empiricism, govern ourselves using Locke's natural rights, and analyze power dynamics through Marx's systemic critiques. This intellectual chain reaction has not stopped. The ideas that structure our world are still moving, colliding, and breaking apart. The only question left is whose ideas you will choose to build upon and whose you will tear down next.